Different setup this week, guys. The audio's the same, but you know what? I have a beautiful tree behind me instead of that. Why? I'm on the road. You know, life calls for things. But anyway, before we get into things today, Jared and I, because we're on the road to the NFL Draft, we're
We
also on
are.
the road to WrestleMania. You know, we're on that wonderful road again. And look, we're gonna get to WWE first because obviously, like, look, road to WrestleMania. I feel, and I'm gonna come out of the gate saying this. I feel like fans have to are wrestling fans impatient? You know, where it's
Oh,
like,
oh, wrestling fans never. Oh, judging by the reaction to the AEW pay-per-view this week, yeah, impatient. Not them in the slightest.
it's, or even too, it's like right now how it's like, oh, they only went to Europe because, you know, the build to the road to WrestleMania sucks. I'm just like, yeah, you know, because like I'm like, part of me, like, they went to Europe because knew A, they know it would sell out and make a bunch of money.
Yep.
B, you go over there, and I honestly like watching the shows at 4 o'clock in the afternoon because, especially with the month with Raw, you had your entire night ahead of you, which felt weird to say as a wrestling fan. You know,
Yeah,
where
it's
a little thing over
it
your head.
actually I really appreciated it because I've been having wrestling training on Monday nights. So with all these afternoon Raws, it was great for me because I could just, I would usually go straight to the Cody Cena segment. I could watch it earlier in the day, still light out. Like you said, got the whole night ahead of you, and boom, in and out. And plus, too, with the Netflix format, now the show isn't locked into being 3 hours or more every single week. So I really like that they're not necessarily confined to going that length of time when they don't need to. I think lately the show's been clocking in right around to like 2.5 hours. So makes for a brisker pace.
Yeah, I think most of the shows are usually done now by like between 10:30 and 10:45, which even in that sense I really like as well because as I'm now a man in my early 30s, I go to bed earlier because you know that's life. But yeah, no, it's not like, oh, you have to wait till like 11 o'clock or even 11:05. No, by like 10:30, like even last night I think it was like 10:40, it was done. Flip on the end of the college basketball, and then boom, there's your night. No, but I will say this though, because I know you and I were talking in the DMs, and I still think that what with the program with Jay and Gunther, last night was probably the best thing that they've done this whole 2 month build. You know, where Jay is not like, you know, come like I understand like it's a huge thing. Like I love to do it. Like, you know, but the fact that he turned on the serious thing and said, like, look, you hurt my family. Now I'm not scared of you anymore. You know, where it's like
Right.
it takes dragging a person to depths like that to really have them go, hey, you know, bring it on. Like I'm ready. I'll see you in 12 nights.
100%. They really, the first step was the angle with Jimmy last week. And then that last night, that promo from Jay was excellent. And, I think that I think for a while it was almost feeling like this is kind of the, I guess, downside to the gap between the Rumble and Mania, especially this year, because the Mania is later than it's ever been. I think they wanted to avoid an overlap with the Final Four. So
Yeah.
that's why they pushed out to like later in April, right? So you've got a lot of time to fill when the challenger in January for a show that's not happening until late April. And I think that they finally, have gotten the feud to a point where this feels like a WrestleMania title match. I mean, Jey Uso, super over. I almost I had Jeff Hardy name slip out of my mouth because that's what he kind of feels like, kind of like the Jeff Hardy for this generation, right? Tag guy who maybe like, people don't look at and think that's the, most, proficient in-ring wrestler on the roster necessarily. Somebody who's going to kind of like, swing for the fences and like, underdog story. And it feels like, the crowd, like, wills them into the main event. So I feel like it's going to pay off. And, Jay, I expect to, probably give a quick prediction. They'll probably wind up winning and, that'll be a great moment. I think, he's got such a following that they got to validate the reaction.
Yeah, so part of me started to believe they made it very believable where I always thought like people think Jay is going to win. That's why I messaged you this because I messaged you my thoughts where I thought I think there's a chance Gunther retains.
Right.
Because I felt like Jay winning would be the predictable thing. And even still, if you now look at the track record from Royal Rumble, obviously, look, I was at Elimination Chamber. I will say this, probably one of the best shows I've ever been to in my wrestling fandom. was that show. I'm not taking that for anything.
Sure.
But the other thing with that, though, is because if you had Cena win the Rumble and then Jay win at Chamber, it's not as, it's super predictable. It's the Vince style booking where it's, hey, we know this is going to happen. We know it's going to happen. Meanwhile, you have everyone thinking Cena's going to win at the Rumble. Jay wins the Rumble. You have everyone thinking Cena's going to win Chamber. Look, it happens. But it's what happened after that. Now everyone forgets, hey, Cena did something that people have wanted for 15 plus years. He did the thing that no one thought, they're never going to do it. It's never going to happen. To where now you're building and culminating all this stuff now to where I looked at it right now. They have 10 matches in the fold. I feel like they're probably going to get another 4 added on, probably. So I think they're probably going to try to do 7 or 8 per night, if I had to guess.
Right. That's been the format. Yeah. I think that, it'll probably wind up being I think some years they've done 6. It depends. Like for the last night, I actually think last 2 years, night 2 has had 6 matches because they've given a lot of time to like the WrestleMania main event the last couple of years, Cody and Roman, I think has gone over 30 both times. So I would imagine there's a pretty good chance that continues here. They really like to give their main matches like time to breathe now at WrestleMania. So the most matches that they've so far in like the Triple H booking era, which I mean, I know that Vince was still around, but it was kind of like his format of show from Dallas onward, like Dallas 2022 onward. And since then, I don't think that they've gone for more than 8 matches per night. And it's mostly been in the 7 range. So, yeah, I'd say they probably may have about like 4 or 5 more matches to add.
So I did look it up while you were talking, and 40 both were 7. It was 7 per night.
Okay.
And because right now, if I look at the matches, I would say the triple threat with Punk, Rollins, and Reigns definitely goes over 30.
Sure. Yeah.
Cena Cody's an interesting one.
I think I think it's a 30, but it's not like a balls to the wall 30. It's more of like a time to breathe. Like there's probably going to be shenanigans to some degree. I mean, when we get to that match, I have my own kind of little in my head idea of how the finish might play out. But I think that overall, from bell to bell, I think we'll be in the 30 range. But there could be shenanigans among that 30.
So my big thing is, and I'm stepping away for a second, because I got to realize I got to get more light on here. So your host can look good on camera. There we go. So I turned my camera off. I'm coming back now. I do agree with you on that point too, especially now with the stuff with The Rock and Travis Scott, because we all know that's not going anywhere. That's got to come back and play into the sub. But the other match that I would say is probably going to get time, and I don't know if people are ready to hear this, but I don't think people, because I think Jay and Gunther probably 15. I'd probably say 17. I don't know about half hour.
I think that's expected though. I think that a world title match at Mania, it should be that long, and also it's like on it. A lot of that is going to be. I think that they're going to follow pretty much a similar format to Gunther and Sami Zayn from last year, probably with I would say a more extended finishing sequence. That match was about I think right about 15. So yeah, I think 20 for these guys. My pick is that they'll probably wind up. I would say it feels like they may open one of the nights with that match. I could even see it being the opener for night 2. I think if it was night 1, maybe middle of the show, because we know that the triple threat is main event.
I think it's either going to main event night. It's the main event. I think it's either opening night 1 or it opens night 2. I think it's
okay.
Yeah. I will say this though, a match that I think is, because with the women, I'm going to say this: Charlotte, Tiffany. Look, we know what's going to happen. I'm not excited for that. But the women's triple threat match with Bianca, Rhea, and Io, I really think it has the potential to be in that top 3 Mania matches from this show. I think you give those women time to work. I also think too, people think, Bianca can get the win, Rhea can get the win. I think you have Io retain, but it's one of those matches where, look, you give them 20 minutes to work and it can go. But I want to go back to the other point, because I did look it up as well. Gunther and Sami Zayn was 15 minutes and 30 seconds on the dot,
Right.
15:30. So I can see a similar thing. Drew and Seth was 10 and a half minutes, but obviously, look, there was shenaniganery afoot in that match.
Yeah, and they had kind of there was a reason that match was so short. Like the story going in was that
him being
Drew
hurt,
smelled blood, and he thought he could win quickly, so he was coming at him hard and heavy, and they kind of worked it more like an opening match in that sense. So I think with Gunther and Jay, I don't think it's a sprint. I think it's more of that deliberate pacing. I think it's more of Gunther really being on top for most of it and making Jay fight from underneath, because I think that Gunther's got to take probably like 70 to 80 of the match, and then you build to like this big Jay comeback that gets the place on their feet. Like really just lean into that underdog aspect.
Like Gunther will be the MVP of the match. He's going to be the one to carry it. He's going to be the one that like really, kind of sets up everything and goes
Right.
from there.
Exactly. Yep.
I know, and I said the women's triple threat as well, but I'm thinking about it as well off the top of my head. Man, Jacob Fatu and LA Knight's going to be another match that I think people aren't ready to not talk about, but like another match that can be, very underrated. Hey, watch this one. And the same thing too with AJ Styles and Logan Paul. And I know everyone looks at like, oh, Logan, this and this. The guy's earned his roses to the fact that we know he can go out there and have great matches with, this wrestler.
Oh yeah, I don't think that that's a match to be slighted at all. AJ and Logan Paul, I think that match has the potential to be a show stealer on the weekend. That may end up being, there's a chance it's the best match of the whole weekend. I think AJ Styles has nothing but amazing matches. Logan Paul always delivers in these big spots. The two guys both work a really athletic style. I mean, if Logan Paul had an awesome match with Ricochet at SummerSlam a couple of years ago, I don't see any reason why him and AJ Styles wouldn't be fantastic here as well.
A match. Actually, I was there in person in Detroit for that match as well. That was a very good match as well. Yep. Yeah, there's not a match on the Mania card I look at as this could be bad. We all know there's gonna be bad matches. That's why I don't want to get my head. That's why I'm saying for a lot of these matches, I don't want to get too excited because every time, look at Jimmy and Jay last year. Not even that it was bad. I just think people sometimes in the match, they'll have a perception that oh, this is going to be this. This is going to be this. It's kind of like you're wearing a Disney shirt. I know you like Marvel.
Yep.
But Captain America: Brave New World, people were like, this and this. I went into the movie knowing what to expect. I'm like, you know what? This is. Yep. I feel like a lot of Marvel fans have the anticipation of this is going to be Avengers Endgame to mean where you go in thinking, you know what? Just see what happens and see where the movie goes. And boom, I liked it. It wasn't anything there. The same thing can be said with wrestling matches, especially at an event as big as WrestleMania.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that, 39 to me is like a good example, and 31 I think are great examples. We talked about in the DMs before this, right? About, on paper, those didn't look like the greatest WrestleMania cards of all time, really. But they ended up, I would say both of those are like probably in my top 5 Manias of all time. I mean, when it's all, when it's all said and done, and I think that the big kicker for me, I think 39, because that's more relevant to present WWE because the roster is pretty much exactly the same, is that their roster right now is so good. And the Triple H format of these shows, this is not like previous WrestleManias where you could be subjected to 3-minute matches. You could be subjected to a really bad Divas match, a Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler, needless celebrities that actively take away from the rest of the show. There's been celebrity involvement, but as we've seen in this era, it's been different. Like Sami Zayn wrestled Johnny Knoxville, and it was really good, or Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee's done, he did really well when he wrestled at WrestleMania. So, and that's not even a thing this year because they don't really have celebrity matches. It's all core roster guys. So just understanding the format of these shows, and again, like the amount of matches that they do, how the show is paced, how the show is laid out, it really is made to feel like most of the matches are kind of given that platform. It's like, okay, you're going to get at least, 10 to 15 minutes. Main events go a little bit longer. Go out there and deliver. And the last few years, we've gotten 3 really great WrestleManias in a row. Griff, you still there? You freeze up. Oh, it's just me, guys. What's up? Stand by. We will be back in a flash. Technical difficulties. Hey, you guys hear the joke about the guy who lost his entire left side? He's all right now. Hey, thank you. Griff's going to edit this part out. It's just me. It's just me, Oos. Day one. Damn.
My complete connection decided to say we're going to lose you, but now I'm back.
What?
I don't know what happened to me. But Jared carried the show there. I appreciate it. But no, which I'm going to reward you now. Instead of talking about the WrestleMania, which we will talk about later on, or we can talk to it, but the draft.
Okay, we're gonna do a little draft, sure.
We did 20 minutes of wrestling. Now we got to commit some time to the draft.
I like it.
So the big thing, because I honestly feel like Cleveland is a wild. Because I'm excluding Tennessee because we all know where they're going. We know Tennessee's going to pick Cam Ward. If you don't know, they had their video production team at his Miami Pro Day.
Yep.
Said and done. I feel like with Cleveland and New York, it's going to be one gets Hunter, one gets Carter. That's how I feel.
Yep.
Because I feel like with Hunter, it's New York. I know Neighbors is great, but and Slayton's good too. But like, you can really add in that extra element of scary with Travis Hunter, where if you have those guys, and no discredit to Wan'Dale Robinson, we know Wan'Dale Robinson's not going to be, to the caliber of to a Malik Neighbors. So if you really pair it like that, 1-2, good. But the Abdul Carter situation to me is, and we were talking tonight about this in the DMs, it's very interesting because I feel like you could use 3 pass rushers, or do you think there's a second to the Giants saying, hey, we don't want to give Kayvon Thibodeau that higher end defensive end kind of money, which can go $30 million, considering we already have a very high paying defensive end on the other side of him.
Well, I've been having this talk with some people lately. Abdul Carter, obviously a lot of upside to that kid. Would he be an upgrade over Thibodeau? Yes, of course. Would he, round out an excellent defensive line? Of course he would. But when I look at the Giants right now, if I'm comparing both sides of the ball, and remember, we are coming off of an abysmal 24 season. We are the trash of the league right now. We're atrocious. We are bottom of the barrel. And, it's a classic case of they managed to win the one game at the end of the year, the one game that ruins it all. And now we don't get the number 1 pick. We got number 3, and number 3 feels so far away, like a distant third, right? Feels like third place. And when I look at this team, defensively, there were flashes. There was some talent on this team last year on the defensive side of the ball, keeping us in games. And then in free agency, they go out and they get Paulson Adebo. They get Javon Holland. You've still got Dexter. You've still got Brian Burns. Thibodeau, not perfect, but hey, paired with those other guys, a piece. Definitely, he is surrounded by talented players, right? So Abdul Carter, of course, upgrade. Maybe it makes us a top 10, top 5 pass rush, whatever. Offensively, we were at a point where we're basically scoring a touchdown every other week. And for this team, they went out there and they signed Russell Wilson to be the starter. He said in interviews he was signed to be the starter. Now, we can debate Russell Wilson's merits all we want. We can talk about whether or not he's past his prime, whether or not he can still get a team to the postseason, or get this team to the postseason, rather. But when you hear from his mouth, I was signed to be the starter, and you've got Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, who are undoubtedly going to be on the hot seat year 4, a 3-14 record, right? You inherited an awful team, and your third year was 3-14. You need to show progress this year. You need to show that things can change. And the most drastic kind of change is going to occur on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, I think that they have done their part to upgrade the unit. And I think that this has got to be a unit that's capable of keeping us in games. And I don't think that Abdul Carter is the difference between this being a bad defense and a good defense. I think it's the difference between a potentially good to great, but I would rather have a good enough offense versus a below average offense. So I think Travis Hunter, if he's available, he's the obvious move.
I completely agree. I do think I'm at the point now where there is something to be said about, a guy like a Jalen Milroe getting an invitation to the draft, because the NFL is really trying to cut back on those this year in the sense of like, hey, they want the guys that are for sure going to go Thursday night. Mm-hmm. So I'm not here to say Jalen Milroe is a first round pick, but there's been talk of, and I'm starting to agree with it, I think Shedeur Sanders, it's one of the Steelers or the Saints. Because I guarantee you, too, because we all know the top 4 in the draft. Your team picks 3, my team picks 4. Your team won 3 games, my team won 4 games. Both lost week 17 and meaningless against the Colts,
sure.
1 week 18 against the Bills. This draft can really have a domino effect because, look, I'm glad that, look, I know you guys aren't quarterback needy, and I think, now, if you have 3, you can go into this year with the 3 where it's, hey, Wilson's there, Winston's that backup security safe plan, and then DeVito's just, DeVito. He'll play if, God forbid, something really bad were to happen to the first 2 guys.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it wouldn't be completely outside the realm of possibility for Shedeur Sanders to be the pick for the Giants, which, I could definitely, again, debate the, the logic there after, going and getting 2 quarterbacks. But it comes down to, if you are convinced on your next franchise quarterback, you go take them. So it would be tough medicine to swallow, but I could somewhat understand it. I understand the logic of getting a rookie for him to sit, but I think to follow up on that, I still think my first choice at this time is still Travis Hunter. And then if it's an opportunity that's available to them, use that second round pick. Maybe you trade back up into the first round and go get a Jackson Dart, somebody like that. I don't know maybe how high they'd have to move up, or Milroe wouldn't thrill me. Or maybe at that point, you're looking at the next tier of quarterbacks like your Will Howards and your Quinn Ewers, people like that. But if they were to, I would say my ideal dream draft night would be first round ends and we somehow with both Dart and Hunter. Like, that would be crazy. But if Dart is going top 10, that's probably going to be really hard to pull off.
I only can see Dart going top 10 if there is a trade. Because it's like people are saying too now with, and even too with the first overall pick thing. If you guys know, because the Giants and the Patriots fan bases are in similar spots right now, where there's a subsection of the fan base that says, hey, make the pick with the best player available. BPA. Take the BPA. Not EPA, like Big Rat likes to say. BPA, best player available. And the Patriots is the same thing too, because if they had first overall, everyone would be like, yo, trade it back. You're going to get like a king's ransom haul. And I'm in the boat like, this is a quarterback class where I don't know where that is. The Bears got what the Bears got because Bryce Young had a lot of promise coming out of school. Cam Ward is good, and he's going to be a good quarterback, but I don't think Cam Ward's going to be that, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, take the Titans from the basement to the freaking playoffs. No. So that's where I want to say that. But with you guys, I still think I just think taking Sanders would be silly. If it was only Winston signed, then yeah, I would say do it. You do it, you start Winston, you throw him in, kind of like last year.
I'm in the same camp. I think that with Russ, it says, we're trying to win now. And people may think that is, foolish with where they're coming from. But ultimately, if he says, I'm signed to be the starting quarterback, you've got to give him as many tools to win now as possible. And I think that's where the logic of the Travis Hunter pick comes into play. Because, it's obviously a competitive division. It's going to be, easier said than done. But I think that the idea right now with the team is that they've been so bad that it's not a good situation to draft a rookie quarterback and throw them into, and I think that this team desperately needs veteran wisdom at the quarterback position, not just in the locker room, but starting for the team to kind of it's like almost, show all these kids, how to do it, like that they don't need somebody who needs to be taught how to play quarterback in the NFL. So even though Russ, I mean, and you look at their whole offseason, they tried to get Matt Stafford first. It didn't work. They tried to get it, right?
That was never going to happen.
Right. Well, yeah, it wasn't going to happen. It's probably a good thing it didn't happen because it would have cost the Kings ransom. But they did try. That was what they were attempting to do. Then they tried to get Aaron Rodgers, and that didn't work. And again, probably a good thing. Probably would have cost too much money. But you land on Russell Wilson. And again, it's like the theme of they were trying to get a proven veteran quarterback in there who could, lead and win games next year. I don't know how many they're going to win. The hope would be it would be better than last year. But the idea is that this is not we're throwing a rookie into the fire type of situation.
Yeah, no. I think the Giants, because honestly, for the Giants this year, I don't think Shane and Daboll, they don't need playoffs to save their jobs, in my opinion. I think if they can go 6, 7, 8 wins and be in that conversation, kind of like where Dallas was last year, where, hey, you're like mathematically alive in December and you win a couple games, but then because you needed like 3 other teams to win and none of them were realistically going to lose, that's when they get eliminated. It's where the next year it's, hey, now you got to make the playoffs or you're getting out. Because realistically, when you go 3-14, right, if they go 7-10 and, hey, you had a good season, there's just a couple bad games here and there, I think that's enough to keep their jobs. I think if you do it in that sense where you see progress, but there's some close games that they lose, like, a lot of teams do. Like, that's how I view New England going into this year where, hey, I think I'm asking them to win, right as of this recording, I'm asking them to win 6 games. That's 2 more wins. Like, if the Giants can go and, right, like even next year, like, how week 2 against the Commanders, you guys lost to them and they only kicked field goals. Like, winning a game like that, another game too, like the game in Pittsburgh where the Giants were in it for a fair bit, or even to a game like the Cincinnati Bengals Sunday night football game back in week 6. Like, win a game like that. Win a game where you're like close, but then there's a couple of the other ones that lose. So even where I feel like if you had won games like that where you're 5-12, I don't think 5-12 stings as bad as 3-14. I think when you're a 2, 3, 4 win club, the seasons, look, we love watching our teams on every week, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
There's nothing fun about.
I mean, I have to say though, I think 7 wins is the absolute minimum for Daboll and Shane to keep their jobs. Like, if I'm really giving them an honest evaluation, if we go 5-12, especially again with the idea that they went out and made all these acquisitions, they didn't have the most cap space of any team, but they had enough cap space to make moves. And I can't stress this enough. Nothing irritated me more this offseason than the deal they gave to Darius Slayton, because basically what it was saying was, we can't think of a better way to spend this money, so we're going to overpay Darius Slayton to reward him for like team loyalty or something, even though his production is something that is easily replaceable in like the 5th round of the draft. How hard is it to find a wide receiver 40 balls for 700-ish yards? I mean, especially when you have Malik Neighbors on the team where, he dominates so much of the target share. You're paying Darius Slayton, what is it, like $13 million a year? I mean, the same amount of money that Saquon Barkley got from the Eagles last year per year is what they gave Darius Slayton. So you do that. You sign Russell Wilson. The reinforcements on defense, right? So what you're doing is you are spending money to try to win games. And we have seen in the NFL that teams can make 1-year turnarounds. So that being said, am I expecting a 12-win season? No. But I need to see more than 5 wins to be at 5. If 5 wins after your 4th year on the job is the best you can do, then what am I paying you for?
That's why I was saying what I was saying, where it's like, hey, I think if they were to go 6, 7, or 8, it's okay. Because at least that's because I feel like, I know we're saying literally not one numbers apart, but the difference between 5 and 7 is astronomical to want to keep someone's job, because 7 and 10 shows that, like, look, hey, we're like, give us another year. We can turn the corner around to where the next year it's, hey, guys, you got to go 9-8. You got to go 10-7 or better. Try to compete for double-digit wins and get into the playoffs.
Yeah, because at that point, it's a 4-win improvement, and it's a tough division, and yada, yada, yada. Like 7 and 10 is like, well, if a couple more games went your way, you're in the playoff mix. So I think that is like – and again, it's not really like It sounds a little participation trophy, but like 5-12 to me is like 5-12 means we're probably still a bottom 10 team in the league. Probably like a bottom 7, bottom 6. So, I hate that that's become the expectation for the franchise. And it's like, we need to have a higher standard of that, where it's like, we can't, like, I don't know any player that should want to go 5-12.
Yeah. Like I'm the same in New England right now, where if New England it's been 2 years of 8 and it's been 8-26 over 2 years, 4-13 seasons. So that's where I say, hey, because New England's in a different position in that standard, where we have another new head coach, third head coach in 3 years, second year of Drake May, and we'll see where it goes. But the Giants are just that team, because it's very interesting right now, because you have the Giants that are, look, just if we can be honest, the Giants, besides the 2 years of Super Bowls, there hasn't been a whole lot that like fans can really hang their hats onto. And I'm not trying to discredit anyone. And I know there's a whole stuff because I know you and I haven't spoken since this, but with Eli not getting into the Hall of Fame, which I will say this now, once his name is called, no one remembers what ballot.
No one remembers when. They just remember that you got in. Yep.
You got in. That's all that matters.
Yep.
I just remember thinking he was going to get in, and then once I started hearing the reports of, oh, he may not get in, and that's when I'm like, I think this may not happen. And I was just waiting for the moment. I know there were some Giant fans that were upset, where it's like, oh, we want like the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters like the thing, because I'm pretty sure the list is public, which also includes, speaking of wrestling, I believe AEW's Alex, I don't know if he's still with the company or not, but Alex Marvez, I believe, was a voter at one point or not in time.
Right. Yep. I do remember
But no. So with the Giants, look, you have both teams in New York, where one, they have to improve ASAP, or it's going to be changed, and then you have the team in green that Danny loves, that I need to see it. I'm not buying stock. I need to see them do something. It's Justin Fields. It's Garrett Wilson. It's this. But Jesus Christ, they need a pass catcher badly. They need either another wide receiver, because there's not a wide receiver on the team besides Garrett Wilson that you're going to get up out of your seat for.
Yeah, now you lose Devontae Adams, right? You have to you got to replace him somehow.
Tight end Tyler Warren out of Penn State screams Jet to me. He screams New York Jet. They need a tight. When's the last time the Jets had a good tight end, like a tight end that like they could hang their hats onto?
Conklin had some games
consistently.
There you go, yeah.
And then with the Giants, it's just, I think the Giants need to come out of the draft with, because look, some more offensive line help, because I'm trying to remember what the guard play is right now, because I know it's Schmitz at center, it's Andrew Thomas at the left, it's Evan Neal at the right, but I know that's been changed. So I know Mark Lewinsky, I think, is left guard. So I think
he's been off the team for a while.
Oh, right. Shit, my bad.
You're a couple years back, man. Yeah.
Oh, now I remember. He signed in 23. He was terrible, and I think they cut him out.
He was awful. Yeah.
No,
our offensive line now, we got Runyon. Runyon's under contract. John Michael Schmitz. Our right tackle, is Jermaine Illuminor.
Evan Neal can't play. Which
Evan Neal's awful. Yeah, they actually put Evan Neal on the bench like last year to start the season. Yeah, that was probably the best move they ever made. And then they were forced to play him when Andrew Thomas got hurt, because they were forced to go to Illuminor at left tackle. And then they were messing around with like Josh Azudu too, and it just turned into the typical New York Giants shitfest offensive line carousel. And it was basically, once Andrew Thomas got hurt, the line fell apart.
That's basically what I was going to say too. I apologize for the Glowinski comments. I just remember they signed him, and I was like,
might as well. It was pretty much no difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like even the division as a whole too. Like with your division, Philadelphia is going to be Philadelphia. They'll be good. Washington, I want to see, because look, I'm not saying they're going to have a sophomore slump and like Jaden Daniels is going to regress. I think Jaden Daniels is the quarterback. Like when I say that, you know what I mean? Like he's the guy. He is who he is.
Yep.
It's really Dallas that I wonder about, just because I know everyone likes to make fun of like, oh, Brian Schottenheimer, like they only go do this, and this. I'm going to say this. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be that boring football team that somehow screw around and win. And because even last year too, they went 7-10 without Dak Prescott. They're going to flirt with 500, I think. I know it sounds crazy to think, but I'm basically saying they're healthy. They're going to be better coached on defense, but I think they're going to win a bunch of 30 14-10 football games that just bore you to death, and we have to watch it on primetime because they get their 5 primetime games a year.
This would be the Washington winning how many games?
I have Washington. I'm still going to put them in that 10 to 11 win range, and I'm going to say Philadelphia's about. I'm going to say Philadelphia goes 13-4 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Washington could be prone to a sophomore slump when you get more tape on Jaden Daniels, and also like their defense isn't good. You know, I mean, they're just when you're a team that anyone can score on, it just makes you prone to losing games. I mean, it sounds kind of like duh, but that is kind of how it usually will shake out. I mean, I would probably go 10 to be safe, but it would not surprise me if they did not make the playoffs next year. I'm just gonna say that, even though they're good, they do look good.
The only team right now that there's a couple of teams right now where I'm still like trying to figure them out. One is the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC, and the other is the Chicago Bears. Because the Bears, to me, are what the Jets are. I need to see it on the field. I know they beefed up their offensive line. They added Joe Tooney. They added Drew Dahlman. They added Jonah Jackson. They also brought in Durham Smythe to complement Cole Kmet. And they also brought in some was it David Ajabo? David Ajabo was in Baltimore. There's a defensive end that they signed from the Colts whose name I'm blanking on. But I need to see it because everyone's going to think Ben Johnson's here. They're somehow going to become the Detroit Lions and go 14-3 next year. Where I'm like, Green Bay's still really good. Detroit's still the cream of the crop, and the Vikings. I'm going to say this: they're still going to be a good football team, no matter who's.
You would think, right? I mean, this is a team that has everything. Has an uncertain quarterback situation, but as we saw last year, they were able to get a lot of wins out of Sam Darnold. And by the way, I think that the Seahawks had probably the most confusing, delusional offseason out of any team in the league, and they are in for a rude awakening this year because I think that Darnold contract was a big, fat mistake.
I disagree with you because you want to know why? John Schneider is a very smart man. That contract is not a 3-year deal. That contract is a year-to-year deal. If you look at the fine print of the contract, they've built escape doors. They've built trap doors in that contract. So if after 25 it doesn't work, we're here at this time next year, they can pull right out from under the rug. They can do that. That's why I respect them. They're bringing them in. They're taking a gamble. The gamble doesn't pay off. They can move on from them.
It just seemed like a very high annual, extremely high annual for somebody who really had one good year and completely fizzled out at the end too. Because I feel like the real Sam Darnold showed his true colors at the end of last season. In those that game against Detroit and then the game against the Rams. I mean, going up against two pretty unimpressive defenses back-to-back weeks in extremely important games, and to play as bad as he did in those games, I could not believe how much he signed for.
Yeah, it's basically what you had to give. But then meanwhile, the talk of Sam Darnold getting $33 million a year is not bad compared to their division rival who may have to give Brock Purdy $50 million a year. I think that Purdy's shown a lot more than Darnold has. I mean, Purdy, while not being I don't think he's shown, that elite quality. I think he's been that good kind of Alex Smith game manager type, but he's done that at least repeat years and he's been to a Super Bowl. I think that resume stacks up. But to your point, quarterbacks are just getting paid so much money. I mean, think about why were Daniel Jones and Geno Smith able to get paid so much? Exactly. So I want to give you a player right now.
Yeah.
This quarterback is in the midst of a 3-year, $100 million deal with a $28 million signing bonus and $50 million of this contract guaranteed. Is that a contract that would be is that player better than Brock Purdy?
$28 million and how much guaranteed?
$50 million guaranteed. $100 million contract.
Oh man. Why am I'm drawing a blank on who this player might be?
This player is Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield.
Oh. Well, it's a good comparison. I think it's a good comparison, actually. I mean, I would probably put Brock a little higher than Baker right now, but I also I don't mean that as a dig. I think that I got a lot of respect for what Baker's done in Tampa Bay, and I think he's had a pretty solid career, which I don't think he was properly rewarded for making the Browns relevant again. And you look at where they're at, where they've gone without him. I think it kind of speaks for itself. But if we're comparing the two, I would say Purdy, I'd put a little bit higher.
That's why I wanted to bring that up, because that's a similar contract to where he can go in and say that, because I don't think I think he's somewhere in that. I think you could give Brock Purdy the Daniel Jones contract and it would age fine. The 3-year deal where he gets $40 million a year.
Sure.
That's fine. I just don't see a world where I can justify giving Brock Purdy 50 plus a year. I can't right now. He's good, but he's not elite. That's why I feel like 50, you have to be elite unless you're Trevor Lawrence. But that's where it comes into play. That's where I look at it as hey, is he worth it? Especially too when you have a team where they're retooling and rebuilding on the fly. That Niners team is going to look very different next year, to where if they have another bad year, I think there's going to be a new head coach there in 2026. I've been starting to bang on that.
They've quickly been kind of like spiraling out of control a little bit, because now it's like you look at like, well, Christian McCaffrey's kind of your guy, right? And like, he's probably, approaching the end, I would say. You look at like running backs are a young position, and now the injuries, like, they've always been a concern, and he missed a lot of time this past season. So that like he only has so much of a shelf life left, and you trade away Deebo Samuel. You've got competition in that division, right? Like, I mean, I still think that it is going to be pretty open though, to an extent. Like, I think the Rams are another team that's like, potentially short shelf life just because Matt Stafford's age and durability concerns. But they've got good pieces around him, obviously, to where I think the Rams have to be the favorite going into this season. But it's not a runaway.
Did you know, though, that the 49ers were the favorites to win the divisions at the sports books when the betting lines opened up for division winners?
This year?
Yep. For this season, they were the favorites. I don't know what the current – I'm going to try to see right now, because, like I said, too, folks, if there's any lag, it's because where I'm recording right now, look, the Wi-Fi is good. It's not like meant for downloading or anything like that. I'm there. So I'm just trying to – let's see if it will work for me. Okay, the login page. Okay, I don't even have to log into my account. What the hell am I talking about? But so with the division this year, I think it's the Rams. Oh, there we go. Divisions right now. So the Rams are plus 160, and the Niners are plus 170. That is that. The longest odds to win the division, sadly, are your New York Giants at plus 2,800. And the Raiders at plus 1,000. The Cleveland, actually, no, your team is, there's a team worse than Cleveland. The Jets are plus 1,600, and the Browns are plus 2,700.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just because of the gap of the haves and the have-nots, I mean, like, think about who they have to leapfrog.
Best odds to win, the shortest odds to win right now are the Buffalo Bills at minus 230. So, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say. So the betting lines definitely have changed as the Rams have signed more players. But also, too, if you're making divisional winning bets before the draft, call the hotline. Call the hotline, people. Call the hotline.
Yep.
But no, there's a lot that's going to happen with this draft. There's a lot that's going to happen, too, like I was saying, with WWE. The other thing I'll say with wrestling, too, because I saw the video from – because I'll be honest with you, I don't really watch that much AEW, but I, keep up with it on social. I don't understand. Like, I know we can get annoyed as wrestling fans and the impatient comment from earlier, but the guy online who had a full-on crash out over the ending, I understand.
So
you can be mad, but how can you get that mad?
Yeah, man. It's so I've been watching a lot more AEW, a lot more consistently. I would always I've made it a point to be watching Dynamite regularly, because there's a YWC Discord that has opened up. Big Rat is in there, and a handful of others. I'll let you know about it, actually, after we get off. So there's actually a couple of them. And basically, like, that's kind of been my like motivation to like, oh, like I got, I basically was kind of given a reason to keep up with the show a little bit more frequently. I would always watch the pay-per-views, but I've been keeping up with it week to week. And essentially, Swerve Strickland is like really popular. He is like a top 5 guy in the company in terms of like fan popularity, top baby faces. However, if you've been paying attention, it is very clear to me and others that they are priming Will Ospreay to potentially challenge for the AEW World Title and be crowned at All In Texas, which is their first stadium show in the United States. The only other stadium shows that they've done have been in London, right? So it's going to be at the Texas Rangers ballpark in July. And in order to get there, you have to wait out this Jon Moxley title reign that's been going on for a very long time, which a lot of AEW fans are not happy about. And because essentially it seems to me that Tony Khan used Swerve Strickland to give Moxley a very credible title defense, one that fans would buy as a potential title change, but also to really ratchet up the heat for Moxley to like a fever pitch level so that when Ospreay beats him, it's this cathartic moment. However, AEW fans are not used to patience. They're not used to this delayed gratification and the idea that they are actually meant to hate a wrestler and not just chant, "This is awesome" at everything. So we've been basically, this has been my thing where like I broke this down on the Discord recently and we came to an understanding where people were like, yeah, that does kind of make sense because there is legitimate disdain for Jon Moxley as the champion, but it's like, hey, it's all going to be worth it. Swerve was never the plan. They just played with your emotions. Ospreay will be the ultimate reward for you.
Exactly. That's why I was echoing patience when it comes to certain things. Like I've learned as a wrestling fan, because especially as a WWE fan too, like my whole thing with booking is I'm still used to the Vince McMahon logical style booking. Meanwhile, the Triple H booking where like, look, the unexpected might happen. You do that. Like I was talking earlier with Charlotte and Tiffany. I think there's a chance that, look, you would not shock me to see Tiffany retain. I feel like Charlotte will probably get the win, but I feel like they could go a route like that. It's even like the one thing too that Vince did that really irked me that I'm glad that Triple H has done is the woman's Money in the Bank is not viewed as oh, hey, you have to, like the person cashes in immediately. And it was very rare that someone held on to it for more than like a month. Sure. Meanwhile, with, Io had it for a month, I know, yes. But Tiffany Stratton had it for almost 6 months. Like, that's a pretty long time. So now you can have this where it's like, hey, you're building for that moment towards, like with Tiffany, like why Nia had the title. And I'm just relating it because it's all similar to where you knew when Nia won against Bayley at SummerSlam, you knew eventually, hey, there's going to be that moment where Tiffany cashes in on her. You knew it wasn't going to be anyone else. You knew that's what they were setting up for because they're working so well together. So it's the same sort of thing right now where, look, what happened on Sunday night, I can understand where it pisses a lot of wrestling fans off. There's another result that pissed me off that's different because I'm not a fan of the wrestler's gimmick, that being the women's champion, Toni Storm.
You're not a Toni Storm fan. Oh, okay.
I'm a fan of punk rock Toni Storm, not a fan of TCM Toni Storm with
see, that was a very interesting match for them to book because Megan Bayne she's brand new, and actually I've known Megan Bayne for a while. I've been on a lot of independent shows with her because she actually is from Connecticut, like my part of the state too. So to see her on the independents for the last 4 years and grinding her way up the ladder, I mean, she totally earned it. And I think a lot of people could see the it factor that she had, that she would be perfect for TV when she ultimately did get there. But she pretty much just debuted, and then they put her in the title match with Toni after Toni beat Mariah May to blow off what had been one of AEW's hottest feuds that was going at Revolution. So it was really oh man, neither of these girls should really lose right now. But I thought the finish that they did was smart and believable, and it was done in a way that didn't make anyone look bad.
I just don't get the whole how it's she left and then she comes back as oh, I have amnesia. Who's who are you? And then it's the whole oh right, I'm timeless. The punk rock gimmick was so much better where I don't understand the whole 1930s, 1930 movie star stuff. That's just me though. But like, no, you are right with it where it's eventually, look, everyone's going to get their rub. I also think too, it's in a way, it's Tony's got to learn from his mistakes, because I still feel like booking Cody never getting booked as champion there was more of a bad thing than a good thing, as you currently can see every Friday night and a lot of Monday nights too, because he'll go on Raw, that you realize, hey, if you put Cody at the top of the company, instead of giving him that silly gimmick with Chris Jericho where, he couldn't ever challenge for the title again, it kind of ruins it to where then, hey, it drove him to, hey, want to go back to WWE, and now he seems like a guy that's going to be a WWE lifer, especially too. He's Triple H's pet project, if you will, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with, promoters having their guys. With Vince, I had a problem when Brock would come back and you knew it right away, oh, he's going right to the mountaintop. That's where I feel like with Triple H, he's not doing it. The only person that I'm kind of getting that vibe with is Charlotte. But then again, with Charlotte, if she's not Queen Diva on the top, where is she really? Because
that was going to be my comments on that match, where it's like, I think that the initial thought from most people would be that Tiffany Stratton is the up-and-coming talent. Charlotte is the established veteran. Charlotte doesn't need the win because she doesn't lose anything from losing. She has accomplished everything that there is to accomplish. But the way the women's division is booked, and it's been like this, right? For the longest time in WWE, where basically they don't really have prominent women's programs that aren't for a title. It's not like the men's division where you can have a men's feud that matters and not involve a championship. I mean, you do have that Jade Cargill angle with Naomi going into Mania, but if you ask me, I think she's just going to squash her. I think that's probably the way that they need to do it too. But with three,
it's going to be like a 3 to 5 minute match. It's not.
Yeah. Maybe. All right. So maybe she'll have spurts, right? But going back to Charlotte, I really think that Charlotte, having lost to Rhea Ripley 2 years ago at Mania 39, did not really, right? Amazing match. That's probably, I mean, it's probably up there with, I think, probably like a top 3 women's match in WWE history, maybe even top 2. Probably that or like Sasha and Bayley from TakeOver would probably be like my 1 and 2 for women's matches.
That match, I got to cut you off there. That match for me, because that was like my introduction to NXT, was that show in Brooklyn. I was there for. Actually, weird enough, the card shirt from that show is my pajama shirt right now. But that is like that's S tier for me. That's in a tier all on its own. Sasha Bayley. That match has a special place in its heart. It's the only match. It's like one of only a few matches that I've gone back and watched on TV, and I felt the same way I felt in the arena. The other one being the end of an era, Hell in a Cell from 28, where I was at the show and I went back and did that. But with Charlotte Rhea was a banger. Becky and Bianca is another one from 38 as well. Like, that's why I feel like that Io Rhea Bianca match can really like carry the show. But no, I completely agree with you with Charlotte, where you have Tiffany as the up and coming champion, but I feel like you can go 2 ways with it. You either have Charlotte win and the Queen is back, or you have Tiffany win and you have her turn back to heel, because heel Tiffany is way better than face Tiffany.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why this feud has been so tough to watch, is that
it's been really confusing.
It's confusing because these women are both basically portraying the same kind of character. And although, people may be inclined to cheer for Tiffany because she is the new up-and-coming talent who, hey, she is a great performer. I think that she's done a great job since she's been called up to the main roster. I think that it's been earned, but, you watch the two on the mic and you're like, oh, wow, they're both kind of have the same demeanor, same personality type. And I think that's why, you don't have the chemistry there. And there could be other reasons that we're not aware of, because whatever went down on SmackDown last week, don't know whose fault it was, but it was definitely awkward to watch.
I mean, it wasn't as awkward as Adam Pearce last night saying, "From the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley." It's like, Adam, no. No, but no, like, I feel like the match will be good to where it's like, how we were saying earlier with Eli Manning. No matter when you get in the Hall of Fame, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. Yeah. With a match, you do not care about the build. Doesn't matter. Like, everyone's saying like, oh, the build for like Rock and Hogan at 17 wasn't good. But no one remembers that because the match is one of the
No.
greatest matches of all time for WrestleMania.
Yeah, and that I think that goes back to the point about like the last several WrestleManias delivering so much is that ultimately they've been these manias, they draw great. The fan excitement around the product and for the guys, that's the thing. The angles in WWE, even though people can pick them apart, the guys are all over. So when you do get to a WrestleMania and you see these guys in the ring, the fans are ready to embrace it. And like the stage is there for them to deliver if they lay it out properly.
Exactly. And that's all we can hope for, lay it out properly for us from a WWE perspective, from an NFL perspective. That's all we really ask for, because we got WrestleMania next weekend. 2 weeks, we have the NFL Draft. It is from the day. So we're recording Tuesday night. This is coming out on Wednesday, April 9th. So it's so we are now 10 days away from WrestleMania, and we are 15 days away from the NFL Draft. But it was a great opportunity to get to talk to the one and only trust fund benefactor, Jared Silverclight. My bank account is empty, folks. So if you want to help me get there, subscribe, listen to the ads, do all that stuff. But anyway, guys, episode number 353 of YWC Football Talk is in the bag. There's more draft and possibly WrestleMania content coming in the next 2 weeks. Enjoy your night, guys. And remember, we're on the road to both the draft and Mania, so it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.